Before we get started, I have a link to my Gab TV channel in the description. Go there and subscribe. There's exclusive videos over there. You've got to subscribe because, let's just face it, we live in an era of unprecedented censorship and discrimination against conservative viewpoints.
There was really an uneven distribution of justice here. People of color in this country are treated differently than white people in this country. And it even comes down to the ways that we protest and how those protests are responded to.
Yeah, the BLM protests just don't attract enough people. I mean, it's maybe enough to loot a Target store or burn a Wendy's, but when Trump supporters protest, they show up in the hundreds of thousands. They're able to successfully storm the U.S. Capitol building.
The protests taking place at Freedom Plaza were very much, against systemic racism, against the threat, honestly, of white supremacy in the White House. It was a largely peaceful scene that quickly shifted to violence and really fear.
The police fired tear gas. I know it sounds loud and crazy. It's tear gas. I know. I was tear gassed. Yet you didn't show where the tear gas was. So I don't know. What's the context of this? Tear gas is loud. Okay, so what?
When Capitol Police came forward and started to pepper spray those who were attending them to make room and clear out the crowds so that President Trump could go to St. John's Episcopal Church downtown and take a photo as a show of strength of some sort against these protests.
What? What are you talking about? You really believe Trump was trying to send some weird message to BLM by taking this strange Bible photo? If that's really true, then it's pretty pathetic on the part of Black Lives Matter to be defeated so easily. The Capitol building protesters got gassed hard and it didn't seem to deter them.
Being tear gassed and pepper gas is a really uncomfortable feeling, of course, and just a really violent thing to go through. And it was the way that this White House saw fit to clear out the crowds of people.
Well, tear gas was also used January 6th. And it wasn't just that. Police also threw flashbangs. An unarmed combat veteran who had served 4 tours of duty in the Middle East was shot and killed climbing over a barrier.
I am mobilizing all available federal resources, civilian and military, to stop the rioting and looting, to end the destruction and arson, and to protect the rights of law-abiding Americans, including your Second Amendment rights.
The day that was supposed to be a ceremonial vote to take place in the House and Senate confirming the Electoral College. At the same time, there was a counter-protest against that very act that was led by the president and his supporters.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. And we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them.
We didn't see any pepper spray on Wednesday. We didn't see any riot gear. We didn't see a heavy police presence outside of the Capitol to even keep people from entering.
None of these things are true. People were pepper sprayed, which would be less extreme than the tear gas anyways. Police were indeed in riot gear. The heavy police presence in order to keep people from rioting is a relative standard. Just look at how many people were there for the protest. Did you expect the Capitol Police to have hundreds of thousands of officers available to respond? How could they? Also, how does their response compare to the Black Lives Matter protest? You offer no explanation as to how the responses are any different.
This is a country that invests more in defense and military-grade equipment and law enforcement than the rest of the developed Western world combined.
Nope, not even close. That is nothing but a bald-faced lie.
And yet we were unable to protect the seat of government where some of the most important lawmakers, including the vice president and vice president-elect, were present.
Oh yeah, such important people. Clearly the most essential people in our country.
They caused a lot of damage on the Capitol Hill grounds in an event, an insurrection that we have never seen the likes of before in American history. Capitol Police stood largely by, which caused a lot of issues. and a lot of frustration.
That didn't look like that much damage. Also, you said that they stood largely by. I saw an awful lot of tear gas in that video clip, and I may have inhaled some of it myself.
The Capitol Hill police that totally dropped the ball here and maybe didn't realize that a number of their officers were largely complicit in this insurrection. You saw officers taking selfies with protesters. You know, like, the proof is there that this is something that goes way deeper than one president and one call to arms.
Yeah, how dare those police officers take selfies? Police would never do something like that with Black Lives Matter protesters.
It goes beyond the Capitol Police. It goes to the FBI. What was the shortcoming in their intelligence that they provided? It goes to the Department of Defense. How long did it take for them to respond or anticipate the need for the National Guard? It goes to many other elements of the executive branch. And I think we have to have a full review.
Oh, man. The FBI and the DOD dropped the ball? They didn't even know to deploy the National Guard ahead of time. How stupid. Wait a minute. Oh, they actually did do that.
How'd you get it? I didn't steal it. I planned on it because they were chasing me and I couldn't see. And so I figured, well, I'm in her office. I got blood in her office. I'll put a quarter on her desk, even though she ain't worth it. And I left her a note on her desk that says, Nancy Big O is here, you.
I spoke with Derek Johnson, the president of the NAACP. One thing that he told me was that, you know, this is something that's been building for decades and decades, and it's been an issue, and it's been a national security threat, this idea of white supremacist extremism.
Oh yeah, all those people, they just hate blacks. This has nothing to do with questionable election. It has nothing to do with nationalism versus globalism. They was racist, y'all. Supporting racist Donald Trump because Trump did something that helped the racists somehow.
I think that this is a good opportunity, while we've heard so many calls over the last year now for justice. Here's an opportunity for an administration to actually administer justice. It'll really be incumbent upon President-elect, soon to be President Joe Biden, to administer justice equally.
Remember when all of those athletes and celebrities who supported Black Lives Matter got censored offline in light of the violent protest? Yeah, big tech and the media responded exactly the same in those situations as they're doing right now. Because in America, we care about individual rights and equality.
No one can tell me that if had been a group of Black Lives Matter protesting yesterday, they wouldn't have been treated very, very differently than the mob of thugs that stormed the Capitol.
Yeah, I agree with Biden 100%. They wouldn't have been called terrorists. The media would never have posted their pictures. They wouldn't have helped the government to try and identify these people. If these were BLM protesters, none of them would have been kicked off social media. The police wouldn't have created a fire hazard by locking them in their hotels. They wouldn't have been subjected to nonstop attacks by the media. Instead, they would have been lauded by the media.
This was a president who said that he would be successful. I mean, part of his re-election pitch was that he was the law and order president, and he tried to make himself the enemy of protesters.
I am your president of law and order and an ally of all peaceful protesters.
And yet, when his supporters were protesting, that was something that made them very special, something that prompted him to say, "We love you." The priorities of the way that this administration views who is deserving of a law and order approach to their First Amendment activities, and who isn't.
A fraudulent election isn't law and order. Neither was this protest. However, it still pales in comparison to the BLM protests this summer. The businesses were burned. The people were killed. the looting. That didn't happen with this protest. Your claim that BLM is responded to more harshly than these other people is a lie. You offered no evidence to support that assertion. All you're doing is promoting racial conflict with this video. There were no shortage of Hispanic, Black, and Asian Trump supporters at the protest. If this was really about white supremacy, then why were those people there? Please support small YouTube and Gab channels like mine by subscribing. Thanks, especially on Gab, because we live in an unprecedented era of censorship.